I go, Father, I stretch my hands to thee, no the help I know, if thou would draw thyself from me, I whither shall I go? Man, this is right here. This Charles Wesley, y'all. Hugh Wilson, I think he was the arranger here. What did thine only son endure? It's good. Before I draw my breath, what pain, what labor to secure my soul from endless death. Ah, man. What a great, great hymn. Y'all should sing the hymns. Y'all should sing them more. I keep telling y'all every time I come on here. I'm back, y'all, and I know y'all like him again. Yeah, it's me. Today I want to talk about abortion. To kill or not to kill. All right? It's another dead horse situation, and I know when men are talking about women's bodies, it becomes a problem. I get it. A lot of men paid for a lot of abortions. Sure did. Did take two to tangle, though. Bass.
It's the show that will get you thinking, and where the topics are hot. Feel free to comment whether we agree or not, 'cause he's got something to say. Sir Walter Jones. Sir Walter Jones. He's got something to say. Sir Walter Jones. Sir Walter Jones Show.
Come on in. The water's fine. Hello, everybody. So Walter Jones Show. I'm here. It is the evening edition. Baby. How y'all is? Come on in. The water's fine. Water's fine. Good to see you, Michelle, to the Casey. Hang around. This show's for you. Gardner, good to see you. April Echoes and Nelson and James and Haygood and Beauregard is here. Ivy and Yvonne. Vanessa Jones is here. Keys is here. Thompson, big ups to you. Johnson and Beatrice Carter. Listen, this show is dedicated to the babies who we have lost. Due to what? Due to abortion. All right, now, these babies will be in heaven. All right? So for those of you who did abort babies, okay, listen, man, this is a tough one for those who are not compassionate enough to understand the pain of some women who wish they had not done this. So I'm going to save that for the end of the show. But I'm looking at a question here, and the question is how many, depending on the the race, what race have performed abortions more than, what's the percentage of the races, okay, in America? And if you ask that question to, let's say, someone on Fox News or conservative, they will single-handedly tell you that mostly black women are the ones who are doing these abortions, and they have set up a lot of the abortion clinics in the black communities, okay, because it's, just go right next door and kill that baby. But that is not so, because where there is a saturation of people, there was a saturation also and an uptick of a something in the negative, like there's white on white crime because white people live with white people. There's black on black crime because black people live with black people. There's Asian on Asian crime. Well, you get it from that, right? Right. They said that there are more black people on public aid. Well, we found out to be a misnomer as well. And when we get to the Roe versus Wade situation, it was not a black woman whose name was Roe. Her name wasn't Roe. That's a Jane Doe name. Okay, it was a white woman. So when you look in the kff.org, you'll see the percentage of abortions that have been performed by whatever race it is. And in Alabama, 62% black. In Alabama, only 31, don't mean to say only, but 31% whites in Alabama. But when you move to Alaska, 51% of Alaskan white women had abortions, 7% black. Y'all see what's happening here, right? Arizona, 41% white, 10% black. Y'all see what's happening here? Arkansas, more whites than black, 45%. Connecticut, more whites than blacks. Delaware, more whites than blacks, 43%. Florida is almost half and half. Idaho, more whites than blacks. Indiana, 55% more whites than blacks, 31%. Kansas, 56% more white, 24% black. Y'all see what's happening? Kentucky, more whites. We got a problem here, y'all. Montana, of course, more whites. Nevada, more whites. New Jersey, half and half. Ohio, more whites. Oregon, more whites. South Carolina, more whites. South Dakota, more whites. It's like 62% whites committing, having abortions. I live there, so I know. Texas is half and half, and they're the ones who passed the laws recently. Utah, 71% white. All right, y'all understand what's happening here? So somebody got y'all believing that abortion is a black thing. The problem with that notion is that this abortion thing started with white folks. Yeah, see, they wasn't bothering y'all as long as you were killing each other, especially kill your babies. They wasn't bothering y'all. But botched abortions were happening in the white homes, and they had to do something about that. That's the part of it that you don't hear about. You brought your knife and fork, David? Yeah, Ruth said she hears it all the time, and she understands because she married into an interracial family, and so she understands. Well, she created the interracial family. Them her babies. Okay. So the whole thing with Roe versus Wade, we were discussing this yesterday on the show with the brothers who came on. Y'all were there, and I'm glad you came. But there was a history of abortion laws, because one of the preachers did say that abortion didn't just start with Roe versus Wade, and some of you didn't know that. Some of you did, and some of you just was like, I don't know if he's telling the truth. According to the court, the restrictive criminal abortion law in effect in a majority of states today are of relatively recent vintage, they're saying here. I'm going to try to skip around, and this is Wikipedia. Justice Jerry Blackman, all right, there's a historical analysis on abortion, and this Justice Harris Blackman, you need to Google his name, because he noted that abortion was resorted to within scruples in Greek and Roman times. This fight went back all the way back to the 1800s, y'all. Abortion was a fight all the way back then. Y'all understand? Way back then. In 1821, Connecticut passed the first state statute criminalizing abortion, and every state had abortion legislation by the 1900s. In the United States, abortion was sometimes considered a common law crime. Through Justice Blackman, Blackman would conclude that the criminalization of abortion did not have roots in the English common law tradition, rather than arresting the women having the abortions, legal officials were more likely to interrogate these women to obtain evidence against the abortion provider in order to close down that business. That's what they were doing back then. So 1971, Shirley Wheeler was charged with manslaughter after Florida hospital staff reported her illegal abortion to the police. And she received a sentence of 2 years probation, and under her probation had to move back into her parents' home. Now, the Boston Women Abortion Coalition held a rally for Wheeler in Boston to raise money and awareness of her charges, as well as had staff members from the national. That's an organization, the Women's National Abortion Action Coalition, the WONAAC. Ain't that something? Now, Wheeler was possibly the first woman to be held criminally responsible for abortion. Her conviction, of course, was overturned. Now, with the passage of the California Therapeutic Abortion Act in 1967, which is pre-Roe versus Wade, abortion became essentially legal on demand in that state, which what we were saying yesterday. Pregnant women in other states could travel to California to obtain legal abortions. And if they could afford to, a flight from Dallas to Los Angeles was nicknamed the Abortion Special, because so many of its passengers were traveling for that reason. And there were packages. They had package trips known as the non-family plan. Oh yeah, this is a real thing, y'all. It's sad. But it's a real thing. Life is a beautiful choice. Yes, it is. It really is beautiful. Y'all, listen. One of the most beautiful processes that I've ever seen on film is the conception of a baby on film. Not the fun part, but after the seed leaves the shaft. It's a how do I explain it? It's a blockbuster movie that only we could see under the invention of this wonderful microscope that man has invented. Demographics are everything. The statistics have more to do with blacks per capita in a given region. And with blacks being 13% of the population, it's impossible to believe the hype. So I remember being in grammar school, and I remember watching or reading in my books, which I still have here, the sperm is leaving the shaft by the millions. And when they reach her tubes, half of those millions go down one tube, another half go down the other tube in the area where the egg is traveling. And all those sperm go through all kind of terrain and capture, and her cells in her fallopian tube are attacking the sperm because it thinks that it's free radicals and it attacks it. Oh, Carla said you saw, look who's talking to. I forgot about that one. Yeah. I forgot about that one. Didn't they do a part 2 to that? And then there's only a few left, about a dozen. And it said that the head of that sperm then, like a flame, sparks on the head of the sperm as it gets closer to the egg. It's an amazing thing that God created. It's like gravity. Gravity is the antithesis of hot air. Hot air rises up, but gravity is heavy, which is why it pulls. So when a person is in a tree or thanks to Newton, when a person is in the air, what goes up must come down. It is that the gravity, it's the ground that is pulling a man down. So when you fall off your bump bed like I did, you fall off something and you go hard, it's because the ground is actually pulling you. There's a force, and you don't know that. And that's called the force of gravity. The gravitational pull is what they call it. Like the moon, all right, which is pulling on the earth. And it is squeezing the earth like a flexible ball. And if you squeeze anything that has water in it, it will cause the water to move as well. For every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction. Y'all can tell I'm a nerd. And it causes the tides to come in and out. You understand? So that's what's happening to the cell of that sperm. The head is activated because there's something being pulled. There's a energy. It sees that I'm almost there. And then those half dozen sperm that gets to the egg, they get in there, and now they're fighting to get in because the egg has all kind of holes and grooves and what have you, and the sperm is tired because it traveled. It went through some rough terrains. And finally that one, his head is not as hard. It's something happens to his head where it's able to penetrate into that egg. And once it goes into that egg, the egg then is stimulated by that penetrating of the egg, of the sperm, and it closes all of its entrances. The egg just shuts down. Nope. Nobody else is allowed in here. And it's got spikes in it. And then what it starts doing is it starts throwing darts, spraying darts at the other sperm that got to the egg. And it just starts throwing darts at them, saying, you can't get in. Brother man made it. Only one can get in here. The chosen one. I mean, I remember this from school. And then once that egg gets in there, the male egg gets in and it becomes like a block, like a balled up thing. And then it begins to unwind like a string. God is just, I just don't understand. He's just an amazing God. It just began to unravel like a string. And then as it unravels, it builds a shield around it, like a membrane, okay? And then in that membrane forms, is it 23 chromosomes? All right? And then they're there, just loose. I think they start calling it male mitosis or something I learned in grammar school, okay? All right? And then the mother also have 23, and hers begin to form around a membrane as well. And then so hers is over here, his is over here, and then there's a microtubule string that connects to the mother and then connects to the father. And it pulls these two together. It's just an amazing act that God did. It pulls these two together and it mixes her 23 with his 23, and then comes the deoxyribonucleic acid of materials that determines if my hair going to be white or black, or I'm going to have red eyes, blue eyes. Is going to determine do I act like my father, do I act like my mother? All that comes together. And it forms in one block called the what is it called, y'all? The zygate or something? Zygote. All right. And then that zygote hardens. And then it travels down that tube and rests right there. I mean, it's just so I think if a woman would just see the process and reminded of the process, she may not want to abort that baby. Wanda said, you better teach this. I remember this stuff, y'all. I remember this. conception is a perfectly choreographed Olympic type event. The sprinters, the runners, the handoff, and the finish line. Ooh, to the wee! With the winner claiming the prize, securing his spot, and closing his door behind, leaving all of the attendants. Ooh, come on, preach! Yes, meiosis during the spermatogenesis and all that good stuff. Come on, y'all. It is the greatest, one of the greatest processes that we could ever have witnessed, and thank God for the invention of the microscope. We're able to see that stuff. I told my son it's not his fault, but he have yeah, Yvonne, absolutely. That's exactly it. So what African Americans need to do, though, is go back and understand the introduction of genocide, okay, or genetics. Genetics was black genocide. That's really what it was. And I remember doing that show, and I'm sure Rogers will give me that show there. It's called eugenics or social Darwinism and scientific racism. Pretty much what it is. The nerve of the European man to try and wipe you out the face of the earth because he hated your guts. From the first sight, since 1787 to the 1830s, Britain was about to end slavery in the Caribbean. From white clergy abolitionists, and it was to give indigenous people civilized values, but it didn't work. And so the plan was to exterminate the black race. You understand? So in the British island of Tasmania, 1803, there was about 5,000 Aborigines people who were looked upon as heathens and uncivilized and savage animals. So the governor of Tasmania had to deal with the problem of possible genocide, and so he put a poster of unity and law up on a tree, and it failed. Governor Arthur turned to a missionary, George Robinson, to gather up the rest of the Aborigines and convince them to leave and head to another island. So they paid Robinson £8,000 and called the place Point Civilization. And that place was actually a Christian convert to civilize these Aborigines. And they began to die of European diseases, and the children stopped being born. Those people were systematically exterminated. The Europeans went all through Africa and South America and wiping out indigenous people. I'm spitting. Inequality is the way of life. And that became the belief. In Jamaica, a small group burned down a courthouse for justice. And the governor, in return, murdered hundreds and burned thousands of them, their homes, in retaliation. And they couldn't prosecute Edwin because the other politicians and the British elite, including the bishops, supported his decision to wipe out the Negro. And so the book, Race is Everything, was printed due to this mess. So they began to produce a study on the bone structure of races and discovered that the black man must be inferior to whites, even to the degree of not being fully human. So I did all that to catch you up because Charles Darwin walks on the scene. Young man who wanted to be a priest. His parents were devout, and he loved to play with animals and dissect them in his backyard. The history that I read. He went over to the Galapagos Islands. Y'all heard of that place? And he saw something that he never thought he'd see. It made no sense. These different islands had the same species, but these species were different. It made no sense to the logic of man. Go to my show this morning and y'all hear some of y'all's logic in mine. Anyway, so he saw these finches and he saw these tortoises. On one island, the finch beak, was this way, same finch, but on this island, the beak went like that. Same finch, and he said this doesn't make any sense. How could something intelligent create these animals and make them different on an island like this so closely in relation geographically? It makes no sense. So he said he came up with a conclusion that there must be a natural selection. There cannot be a God doing this, because God, as his parents taught him, was more intelligent than that. So he came up with on the origin of species by means of natural selection. We call it the theory of evolution. But that is the full name of the book, On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection. There's more to the topic, to the title. It's actually pretty much, it was a radical way of being a racist. And I believe on the Galapagos Island that this man saw Satan himself. And Satan spoke to the man. Evolution says that there must be losers, and these losers must disappear. Y'all understand? Natural selection. Preservation of the species or something like that. In America, disease and war had almost annihilated the Native Americans, and they were looked to as the weaker race. In Australia, the people in the outback were dying the same way their Tasmanian cousins did. And in Africa, for a fight for empire, millions of blacks, they died. 30 million Indians, or Indians, died in 1870 through 1890 due to famine because of Great Britain. And then there's this mess that happened in Namibia. Okay. Now, when we get back to the American society, you see Carnegie, you see Rockefeller, Procter and Gamble. All of them were part of what's called a population control. And maybe y'all didn't know. Maybe you do. Blacks are too weak to survive on their own, so leave them alone to die. That was the plan. Colonialism. Or ship them back to Africa. Have whites procreate to overwhelm the population. Let's try that one. But there was a high infant mortality. Okay, create an environment that would cause blacks to commit racial suicide. Didn't work. White elites or eugenics knew that what they were doing wouldn't set right with most of the country, so they began to use code words to describe blacks. They said that y'all were feeble-minded, you were unfit, you were immoral, you are an imbecile, you are a criminal, you are a moron. Hence the word thug. When a white man rally in the street and burn down stuff, those are ralliers. But when a black man does it, he's a thug. It is a code word. So the same men who made billions on the slave trade now are spending billions trying to get rid of the black man. but they themselves didn't want to be the public poster boy for this genocide, but they would hire crusaders to do the work for them. So they chose the founder of the American Birth Control League, Margaret Sanger. They needed a crusader, and she needed the money. You understand? So the black man has never been a competitor, but has always been subservient to the white race. And just so long as he remains subservient, his position is secure. And just so soon as he becomes a competitor, his fate is sealed. Who is that? Dr. Benjamin Hayes, Eugenics, 1905. So the adding of birth control in the water supply system in black neighborhoods. That's why your water is jacked up. Can y'all tell me where that place? Somewhere near here, where the water was pretty much poison. Sure didn't happen in the white neighborhood, did it? Y'all remember that place that y'all don't talk about no more? So what was the final weapon? 1973. Legal abortion has killed more blacks than AIDS, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and violent crimes combined. Every week, more blacks die in American abortion clinics than were killed in the Vietnam War. And the largest chain of abortion clinics in the United States is operated by, they had to change the name from eugenics to Planned Parenthood because it was more palatable. Yeah. The most dangerous place for a child is to be in the womb of its mother. Y'all understand? In this day and age, especially, the most dangerous place for a child to be is in the mother's womb. When it was illegal, most white women had abortions. After it became legal, most black women did it. Yeah. So, people like Jesse Jackson, the Democratic Party, the NAACP, and all these people, they are all co-conspirators of the genocide of your own people. Urban renewal, in which I studied when I was in kindergarten in the 1960s, was the Negro removal, like the great Indian removal in the Trail of Tears. Urban renewal was that. And now we have in our neighborhoods gentrification. Yeah. The American Heart Association, the Cancer Society, and Planned Parenthood are the top 3 funded organizations. Top 3. So many of the Republicans talk about abortion like they are in this thing to save black people from killing their babies. But yet, although we had about 5, how many did we have, Rogers? 5 or 6 Republican presidencies. Abortion is stronger now than it ever have been before. Y'all understand? Strong. In the beginning, African Americans had their genitals removed and amputated, bones removed, radiation exposure. We've had brains cracked open while still alive, blood drained out of our bodies, no painkillers. We were even put in cages like animals. There's a reason why your forefather did not like to go to their doctors. This is why many of you, again, refuse to be vaccinated or even go to the hospital. And many fear that they will be probed, prodded, experimented upon without their consent, and return home sicker than when they left, or may not return home at all. I remember when they probed my foot when I got stabbed. They was probing my foot. The U.S. government targeted other blacks for experimental reasons in the 1950s. Yeah, they infected yellow fever and all these other little mosquito-borne diseases and dengue or whatever you call that virus, all kind of stuff. And this is why many of you think that that's still going on today, so you refuse. I'm sympathetic to you. I am. The mosquitoes were dropped from planes in special paper bags designed to burst open when they hit the ground, sending the infected insects off to bite as many African Americans as possible. Jail inmates were used as guinea pigs to test products from pharmaceutical companies. Oh yeah, we've heard it all. We've heard of the Tuskegee syphilis issue. Doctors had no intentions of curing them of it. All of this stuff, y'all. Flint, Michigan's water system, lead causes retardation and the dumbing down of our people. The foods in our neighborhoods are bad. We get the second and third when the stores from the white neighborhoods are done with it. When it expires, it goes on to our shelves in our communities. Poisoning of our people. So what do, y'all? Because the food in our neighborhoods does cause diabetes. I believe it causes cancer. I believe it causes heart disease in our communities. And then when the food is taken out, now we have food deserts. So Margaret Sanger, the first president and founder's main target was African Americans. And Sanger believed that for the purpose of racial purification, couples should be rewarded who choose to sterilize or be sterilized. And so when Hillary Clinton praised Margaret Sanger, I knew that those of you who were voting for her didn't understand what in the world was going on. And my father told me about the attempted sterilization of my mother. We were on public aid back in the 70s, and in order to stay on public aid, there was a possibility that they would sterilize you. And they decided that my mother was next. When my father realized what they were doing, he got himself off of public aid as fast as he could. That's right, Ruth. We should grow our own food. We should grow. I thank God for being down in the South in Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, Canton, Mississippi, where every summer, or Little Rock, Arkansas, where my mother's from, and you didn't go to the store. You only went to the store for some things, but they sold in the ground. They had cattle back there and horses and even an outhouse. Okay. And they grew everything in the backyard. They knew what they were growing. So unfortunately, when the stock market crashed and we went into a depression, a lot of African Americans still ate, especially those in the South, because they were raising their own food. They had green thumbs. And they brought that skill with them to the northern cities, and this is why there are a lot of gardens in big cities like Chicago and Detroit. There are gardens there, and black people are growing. My church have a couple families. Alvin Perriman, sometimes he and I fight on here. He's got an amazing garden in his backyard, in which I have picked from and ate dearly from his garden in his backyard. The Lord is blessed. I think Ellis Success may have one. I'm not sure. You grew your own vegetables and livestock. Absolutely. Uh, Misinformation. You actually still have white people thinking that black people do not feel pain on the same level as Caucasians due to medical yeah, and white folks are in no hurry to align them. Oh wow, yeah. Yeah. It's all systematic, Robbie. Yes. Give the poor folks the least nutritional foods. Yep. And they pay for it. Then if our babies do make it, they are preyed upon, everything from being used. Yep. So I'm glad you brought that up, David Weaver, because the abortion debate that comes from many of the white homes and the white political talking points, I understand it. As a Christian man, women should never abort their babies because that still is murder. Now, there's an issue with rape and incest. We'll talk about that. But when you see a white woman, usually it's a woman, it's never a man, a white man. It's a white woman standing in front of the Planned Parenthood trying to stop a black girl from going in that place to kill the baby. For some odd reason, this white woman will lose sleep, spend all her money, and risk her safety to stop a girl from killing an unborn child. But once that child is born, then that same white woman turns on the systematic racism meter and tries to keep that child down as possible, or possibly push it into neighborhoods where she know, like David did Uriah, put him on the front lines so that his life can be taken. It is the strangest brain that sits inside the cranial of a human. Yeah, Nikia, then the fight stops. It's almost like that newborn, that unborn baby is a dog or a cat or some kind of animal, because whites love their animals. And a stray dog would walk up and down a white neighborhood and get royal treatment. But when I was in the neighborhood with my family, they called the police on me, and I had my wife, my ex-wife, and both my children. And they called the police on us. If I was a dog, I would have gotten a steak dinner, and they would have paid for a veterinarian to check me out. That sits in the cranial of a human being with that type of thought process. Yeah, Pitts. It's the saddest thing. Makes you cry, don't it? So let's see what the scripture says. The Bible never specifically addresses the issue of abortion. However, there are numerous teachings in the scriptures that make it abundantly clear what God's view on abortion is, and most of you have heard all of the scriptures. So I'm going to read it for some of you who are new to this debate in the spirit realm, and so that you could understand. Yes, Carla, CRT includes all of the very real history you're outlining. They want to stop the teaching of history and spread of knowledge that might lead to enlightenment of produced change. Oh, Carla, that's good. Jeremiah 1:5 tells us that God knows us before he forms us in the womb. Psalms 139, starting at the 13th verse, speaks of God's active role in our creation and formation in the womb. You understand? There was no debate on When did life begin? Pro-life is from the womb to the tomb. An unborn child is more valuable than much. Yeah, come on, SD Eden. So good to see you here. Exodus 21 and 22 prescribes the same penalty, death, for someone who causes the death of a baby in the womb as for someone who commits murder. The law and its punishment clearly indicates that God considers a baby in the womb to be just as much human being as a full-grown adult. For the Christian, abortion is not a matter of a woman's rights to choose to have a baby. The baby is already present and living. Abortion is a matter of the life or death of a human being made in God's image. Genesis 1. I believe in corporate punishment. Corporal. And unfortunately, our laws are on shaky ground because there's some innocent people on death row. But if there is proof that a man killed another man in cold blood, God said a life for a life in Genesis chapter 9. He never changed his mind throughout the 65 books that was left. Never changed his mind. So then the fight over why would he let a man, why would you agree with corporal punishment but not agree with abortion? Is it the same? We're talking about a life for life. The reason why God says, take that man's life, he says, because I made this man in my own image, and I did not give my creation the right or the privilege or the permission to take my image away from humanity. So because you did that without my permission, you must die. That was before the Mosaic law, and he never changed it. Y'all understand? So is the law perfect in man's laws? It's not. There are some innocent people who died who are on death row. I'll tell y'all what that is in a minute. What does the Bible say about abortion? Simply put, abortion is murder. It is the killing of a human being created in the image of God. Now, for those of you who are tribal to the Democratic Party, pro-choice, there's a thumb down button on YouTube. Feel free to press it, because when you press it, it still is in favor of my algorithm. A common argument against the Christian stance on abortion is, what about cases of rape or incest? Rape or incest. As horrible as it would be to become pregnant as a result of a rape or incest, is the murder of a baby the solution? This is the hardest thing to say. It's the hardest thing to read. It's the hardest thing to accept when you are not a woman. When men talk like this, it's difficult for women to understand it, or for women to fathom that a man could understand it. Two wrongs still can't make it right. Come on, Ron. The term pro-choice means next to nothing. Two wrongs still don't make it right. Still, as horrible as molestation is, or rape, the child who is a result of rape or incest couldn't be given, that he or she could, that is, be given an adoption to a loving family. There are many families, some unable to have children on their own, who stand ready to receive and love a child from any background. The baby in this situation is completely innocent and should not be punished for the evil act of his or her father. Now, it is unfortunately a psychological torment to force someone to keep a child in whom the father is this girl's father or a rape survivor. It's got to be torture for 9 months to know that you've been raped and the reminder of the rape is growing in your belly. That has got to be some of the most torturous things. Even in that, you've got to lean on God, because to do another wrong to correct a wrong could cause you to miss heaven too. And unfortunately, you have become collateral damage because it's bad enough your body has been attacked. Now mentally you've got to suffer for another 9 months. That's got to be trauma, Pitt says. It's like you're not giving that child a choice either. Yes. This is the hardest thing for anybody to tell you. And I don't know. I never met a woman who accept this type of teaching. I just don't know. I just don't know. Say you know a lot of. Yeah, I know. It's also important to keep in mind that abortions due to rape or incest account for a very small. Now, this is not going to help you, but this is for statistic reasons. It's a very small percentage of total abortions. Very, very small. Only 1% of abortions can be traced to cases of rape or incest. All right? It's a cited an overview of abortion in the United States. It came out October 2001. So this is the fact sheet. Another argument often used against the Christian stance on abortion is, what about when the life of the mother is at risk? Well, this is the most difficult question to answer on the issue of abortion. First, remember that such a situation is extremely rare itself. Dr. Landrum Shuttles, a pioneer in the field of in vitro fertilization, in vitro fertilization, because I'll get in the inbox if I don't say it right. I like to listen to what's that girl name on YouTube? She comes out. I think her name is Rachel's English. I like Rachel's English and Amber Rogers and Beatrice Carter and Demetra Pitts, even Brony Scott. They have really helped me say certain words because my mind be going 1,000,000 miles an hour. Yeah. 1% of all abortions are performed to save the mother's life. 1%. Other medical professionals go further, stating that abortion is never necessary to save the mother's life. Over 1,000 OB/GYNs and maternal health care experts signed a statement in 2012, not so long ago, saying in part, as experienced practitioners and researchers in obstetrics, we affirm that direct abortion, the purposeful destruction of the unborn child, is not medically necessary to save the life of a woman. That's what they said. Now, y'all do the research. Second, let's remember that God is a God of miracles. He can preserve the life of a mother and her child despite all the medical odds being against it. Don't leave God out of this, y'all. You're right when you go slow. You just get excited and start. You see what I'm saying? I told y'all, they know me. Third, even in the small percentage of abortions performed to save the life of the mother, most of those abortions can be prevented by an early induced delivery of the baby, or, of course, a C-section. And it is extremely rare that a baby must be actively aborted in order to save the life of the mother. Very rare. If the life of the mother is generally at risk, the course of action can only be decided by the woman, by the doctor, oftentimes the father of the child, and of course God, in those rare cases. And any woman facing this extremely difficult situation should pray to the Lord for wisdom. James 1:5. The overwhelming majority of abortions performed today involve women who simply do not want to have the baby. So let's get back to the bulk of abortions. Overwhelmingly, they just want to have it. As indicated, just 2% of abortions are for the reason of rape and incest and the life of the mother. Even in these more difficult 2% of instances, abortion should never be the first option. The life of a human being in the womb is worth every effort to preserve. For those who have had an abortion, remember that the sin of abortion is no less forgivable than any other sin. And though faith in Christ, all sins can be forgiven. John 3:16. Romans 8:1. Colossians 1:14. A woman who has had an abortion, a man who has encouraged an abortion, and a doctor who has performed an abortion, all can be forgiven by faith in Jesus Christ. Do you hear me? All of you can be forgiven. And the ones in Texas who are talking about the whole 6-week situation, because they're trying to reverse Roe versus Wade, which is, if you're a Christian, you should support any effort to stop abortions. If you are a Christian, it's affecting Christians in the negative because you are Democrats, or you're part of a tribal party, or you just need the freedom to do a whole lot of stuff. And no, it is not the job of the state for moral reasons, no, but it still is the job of the state to protect its citizens. And this is why you put on the seatbelt. It is a state law. The state want to protect you and others, so put the seatbelt on. It's the law of the land. So we will agree and co-sign and tell our children to obey many laws that protect the life of people. But when it comes to abortion, we say, nah, state, get out of my body. And now the pushing of the vaccine from the president that is mandatory through OSHA, and a certain amount of workers work on a job, is mandatory that they be vaccinated, and y'all are saying the same thing. It's my choice. Get out of my body. This is all about division and authority and submission. And the scriptures tells us through Romans, is it 13 or 14? Which one is it? That we should obey the laws of the land if it, by all means, if it does not go against God, you should obey the laws of the land. It's a tough one. I know a lot of people who are against abortion until they get a woman pregnant. And then they secretly go into these little back alleys and get these things done. And then they get back to beating on the table. They are against abortion. There's a lot of that going on, y'all. We're not that crazy. So if you've had an abortion, you will meet your child in heaven. The father and the mother, you both will see your child in heaven. You understand? And don't you worry. Nobody's going to be looking at you funny, because some have had several abortions. Several. I dated a woman who had 6 abortions, all right? I mean, I didn't. She had those before I met her. And I believe, and the study has shown, that women who've had abortions suffer from some type of mental illness, and they don't even know it. And they are tying mania, or not schizophrenia, but a type of bipolar, to abortions. They're tying it. So the girl thinks she's okay, but through life, this girl has had some really rough and hard knocks. Mentally, she's been gone through stress and anxiety, and she can't keep a job. She's very angry, or she's unstable, or she's constantly getting to men's beds and stuff. Okay, her way out is to lay in men's beds, right? They said they were tying that to abortions, and that is a type of the ramifications of a traumatic moment. And I think you pastors need to do that study, so that you can help lead these women in the sanctuary and your churches to professionals who can help them. You pray for them, but you send them to professionals who can help them. Come on, Delia. Repair of the breach, reconciliation, and restoration. Babies are surviving from 28 weeks. Carla, all right, come on. All right, now the question of the day. My time is up. I've got a nice cold brew of Pure Leaf freezing in the freezer, and it's calling my name. Calling. All right. The question of the day is, can you please discuss the old method of sitting someone down because they're pregnant? Oh, how apropos. A bishop in a town, I'm not going to mention the town because I don't know if this question is private or not, did it at a Bible study. And they said they will share it on their page. They need global conversation on this. Okay. All right. Sitting someone down because they're pregnant. This is typical. How many of y'all have seen this in your church? I know I have. They'll sit the girl down. But the boy, nah, he can get back on the organ. Let's go to Matthew chapter 18. And we can start at the 21st verse. This is again one of Jesus' wonderful stories and parables. This is the parable of the unforgiving debtor. Okay? It's a great story. SD Eden, bless you. I appreciate you. There's no guilt or shame. Yeah. And somebody give me Galatians, is it Galatians chapter 6? I'm sorry, Ephesians. Ephesians chapter 6. Y'all know where I'm going, right? Ephesians chapter 6. She was rebuked and made an example of. All right, I'm going to read Matthew first. But Ephesians, somebody put Ephesians, is it Ephesians chapter 6, Ron? You know where I'm going, right? Right? Blessings to you, Wanda. Praise God. I just spent that on dinner, and you I said, God, now you got the money. God, you got the money. No, oh wait. No. Why am I going to Ephesians chapter 6? That's not where I'm going. I'm going to. I need to go to where if the brother is taken into a fault, it's Galatians 6, isn't it? Yeah, Galatians 6. But let's read Matthew 21. Then Peter came to him to ask, Lord, how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? What? He said 7 times? Now, I'm reading this because did that pregnant girl sin against the pastor? Did that pregnant girl sin against the church? Or did that pregnant girl sin against God? And how long are you going to sit her down? For 9 months as this baby grow in her belly? Does a baby growing in her belly mean that she will continue to be in sin for 6 months? I'm sorry, for 9 months? While a baby grow in her belly? Can she not ask God for forgiveness immediately and be restored according to Galatians chapter 6, as Pitts put up there? If someone is caught in a trespass, you who are spiritual should restore him with the spirit of gentleness. But watch yourself, or you also be tempted. These preachers are rebuking folks and silencing them and sometimes excommunicating them. And some of these preachers have committed an abomination by sowing discord among the brother. Who gonna sit him down? And if you start standing up pregnant women, you need to call a line for fornicators and adulterers and liars. And the list goes on and on through Galatians as well. The works of the flesh: idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envies, drunkenness, revelings. And then let's not look at Romans chapter 1's list. That's even longer. So why do you always put the pregnant girl up there? Why? Because you can see her sin. It grows in her belly and it protrudes outwardly, and it is obvious she has sinned. But these other sins I see here are tucked behind the curtains, many of them. You understand? So we go after the pregnant girl, and then we go after the homosexual, because in the homosexual, you can kind of see because if they may show it outwardly by the way they talk and the way they dress. So some of them are bold enough to try and show you this is who I am. Other homosexuals are not as flamboyant as that. They're in the closet. You understand? So if you're going to put her on the mic and tell her to apologize to the church, you need to stand up the whole deacon board. You understand? So Matthew, then Peter came and asked, how many times should I forgive him? 22. No, not 7 times. Jesus said 70 times 7. And then he gave a wonderful parable about the kingdom of heaven can be compared to a king who decided to bring his accounts up to date with servants who had borrowed money from him. Y'all can read that on your own. I believe in my heart of hearts, that Jesus told him to forgive 70 times 7 based off of Cain's family. This is my belief. You're like, where you get that from? I'm Sir Walter. I dig deeper than some of you. Let's go there. Genesis, Pitts, and then you can go to bed after this. Genesis chapter 4. Genesis chapter 4. Start at the 16th verse, the 16th to the 24th verse. Genesis chapter 4, 16th through the 24th verse. I believe in my heart of hearts, this is what Jesus get it from. And then I'm going to check my book to see, maybe. Now, I don't rehearse this stuff, y'all. I don't rehearse this stuff, so I'm hoping that it's in my study Bible. I'm going to see what they say about my analogy. All right, let's read it together. And Cain, all right, went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife. Cain didn't find his wife, misconcept. He had sex with his wife over there. This was his sister. He took his sister with him to Nod, and not found, but knew. Did I fix that for y'all? Good. And she conceived and bare Enoch. Not the same Enoch you think we're talking about. This is the ungodly line of Cain. They walking around in circles. Do. Okay? And bare Enoch, and he built a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And Enoch was born Irad unto Enoch. And Irad begat Mehujael, and Mehujael begot Methusael, and Methusael begot Lamech. And Lamech took to him 2 wives, and the name of the one was Adah, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Adah bare Jabal, and he was the father of such as dwelt in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. You musicians should know who this cat is. He was the father of all such as handle the harp or the organ. And this is why the musician, especially the organ player and the piano player, are the biggest devils in your church, because their father was Jubal. 22. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal Cain, and that's not something you put in your teeth, because anyway, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, and the sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. 23. And Lamech said unto his wives Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, you wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. Now, 23 and 1. 23. Let's go down here. Is it down here anywhere? I killed a man for wounding me. All right. So, I killed a man. If Cain shall be avenged 70-fold, truly Lamech 70 and 7-fold. Ta-da! There it is. And whenever Jesus was talking, notice his style. He liked to go back to the Old Testament and bring up something that these Jews understood. Now let's see what my Bible says in the notes at the bottom. Let's see. I'm praying with y'all. Oh, let's say the mark of Cain is unidentifiable since his descendants perished from the flood. The mark was not a stigma, but rather a protection of Cain, and shows God's incredible love for even, ain't that something, impenitent sinners. Wow. Lamech. 3 sons were pioneers, each in his own specialty. Tubal Cain developed ironwork, a skill that both scripture and archaeology demonstrate to have been lost for centuries in the flood. What does it say here? This irreverent poem shows sin is progressing quickly. This is Lamech's depravity surpassed even Cain's, boasting for killing a young man for merely hurting him. All right. That's what they're saying here. Then 26. Amid the depravity were those seeking to know the Lord. Okay, so it stops here. So my Bible didn't address it. They decided not to address it. But you see what happened there. So where's my other Bible? Where's our dear brother? What does he have to say about it? I like to know what he had to say. Where you at? Where's Tony Evans? Oh, here he is. I'm curious to see did he even address it. Because what Jesus did to further prove my point, I'm about to prove my point further. John chapter 8. John chapter 8. Let's see. Right quick. I think it's John 8, where he says that y'all are of your father, the devil. Yeah, here it is. Look at this. Clear up. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you would do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in truth, because there was no truth in him when he speaketh lies. He was a murderer in the beginning, your father. 44. Oh, they didn't do it here. I do know for a fact, though, he's talking about Cain. Because the scholars, the study Bibles, the concordance says that he was talking about Cain. So Jesus then repeated this by bringing up forgiving 70 times 7. Now, Matthew 18 and 20. Let me see, did they say anything here? I just want to make sure before Pitts go to bed. Matthew 18, let's go back. Did they mention anything in here? I want to see. I'm curious. 21. I'm so curious. Okay. Uh-oh. Where are you? Where's my camera? Okay, 23. Therefore, 21. Peace question must be considered in the light of the preceding subject. Jesus does not give a legalistic or mathematical formula. He means limited forgiveness. Limited forgiveness, 18 and 22. Okay. The parable illustrates the principle of forgiveness, a vital element in the process of church discipleship. Okay. All right. Yeah, I was curious. Yeah, you got it, Delia. 844. All right. So in one of the study Bibles, he says that you are of your father, the devil, which was Cain. And then he took them back to Cain's sons or grandson, Jubal. And there you go. It's a great study, y'all. It's a great study. This Bible here it's another one of my favorites. Is it upside down? The Holy Bible Complete and How to Understand. And this Bible came on the scene in, I don't know, I think the 1700s. This was a gift to me from a Facebook friend And I think, 1869. Amen. This is this book here. Wonderful Bible from 1869. I can smell the horse and buggy. I can smell the horse and buggy. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go. I'm sorry to keep y'all that long because Deatrice done went to bed, and I just wanted to see if the study Bibles would bring up some stuff. Let's see what Tony Evans says. Genesis chapter 4. Does he say anything about it? I'm just curious. Okay, let's see what he say. Let's see what Tony's saying. We can go to bed, huh? Hopefully in separate beds. How about that? What follows Cain's punishment is the tale of two families, a theme that shows up repeatedly throughout Genesis. Unfortunately, Cain's murderous ways affected his family line. By the time we get to his great-great-great-grandson, we find many bragging about his own violence. I killed a man for wounding me, Lamech boasts. Notice, too, that Lamech was talking to his wives, plural. God's perfect design is only 4 chapters old, and already we find people reveling in bloodshed and flaunting his design for marriage. Wow. Yeah, that's good. So, if Cain's great-great-grandson can revenge 70 times 7, Jesus says, you forgive that many times and more. I got to go, y'all. Thank you for hanging out with me all day today. I'm sure I gave y'all too much information. Such grace indeed. Beverly, blessings to you. Thank you for hanging out with me. Okay, it's a lot there, y'all. All right, and take some time off and meet me tomorrow night for Sunday school at 9:00 Central Standard Time. All right. What's the lesson? I have no idea. I ain't looked at it yet, but I will an hour before the show. Cain's family was terrible. Talented. I'm sorry. They were terrible too, but they were a mess. Yeah. All right. So tomorrow I'm gonna take a break and enjoy me and the family. All right. I love y'all. Take care of yourself. If you're on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe and share and like and all that stuff, and you'll share the gospel all over the world. God, I thank you for your presence. I always do. There are a lot of women and girls who aborted their babies. You know every one of them. Every string of hair and cilia in the nose. Every sparrow that falls from the sky. You know all of them. And every baby that's been aborted, they're right now. Yeah, they're with your son right now. All those babies in heaven right now. They'll be seen again. But this time, when we see them, there won't be any weeping, no crying. You said you'll wipe away all our tears. There won't be any embarrassment, nobody pointing fingers. For those children will then be not our sons and daughters, but they'll be our brothers and our sisters. We won't even be given in marriage. We'll just be one happy family. God, I thank you for that. We look forward to that day. So forgive us of our sins and all those women who did what they did and the men who paid for them. You can forgive them all if they want it. It's free of charge. They put it on your tab. And God, thank you for picking up the tab. We love you. We give your name the praise in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. A pre-abortion kill inside the womb. Pro-abortion kills out. Yeah. Garner, that's tough there. All right, y'all. Gotta go. Hey, I'll play this one. I heard from Haiti again. And I will play it. I'll play it now. Okay? Where is it? Where is it? Here. Good night.
Good morning, Pastor Jones. We are the teachers of the Moody School. Thank you so much.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?